All right, good night, everybody. It's Steve with Real Progressives. I am excited to, of course, be here with my cohort, Ellis Winningham. The excitement of being able to do these shows is never lost on me. I really, really enjoy the opportunity to spend the evening with Ellis. So tonight we're going to do a little bit different. Ellis has been prolific in his posting here recently, and he has given us some real nice nuggets of gold to kind of talk through. So I'm going to try and do that here. So in the meantime, let me bring on our favorite friend here, Mr. Ellis Winningham. Welcome to Real Progressive, sir.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing well, doing well. All right. So, Ellis, you've been on a tear here of late, and you've been doing it for a long time, but it's only become apparent to us finally to say, hey, how can we leverage this absurd, prolific volume of incredible nuggets of gold? Because we have to dig up nuggets of gold. So tell me.
Just like money.
All right. So let's just take a minute real quickly and talk for just a moment before we get into some of your posts. Let's just take a second to reflect on what the left is, what the left is not, and the import of understanding the economics underlying the fricking movement that these friends and foes alike claim to say they want, but when push comes to shove, they would rather be steeped in sidelined, orphaned issues than understanding the underlying macroeconomic reality that allows all of our issues to come to fruition. It's like they think that there's austerity on issues. Like you can't, there's like an issue austerity. There's like a resource shortage of us being able to meet our needs because that's just the way orphan politics works. Mm-hmm. And instead of seeing us as a movement with an underlying macroeconomic truth that could deliver on all of our issues, they seem hell-bent on splintering us into a million little shards of ineffective nothingness. And that is the old left, as you call it.
Yeah, that's the old left. That's what I call it.
The old left, Ellis.
The old left is ineffective because it enjoys orphan politics. It's something. It's just a phrase. I don't know if someone else came up with it before me. I just came up with it one day to say, all these people on the so-called left, they don't really exist. The left doesn't exist. It's just this mishmash of people. And when you see them, you'll all of a sudden notice that you've got some of these so-called leftists. They're like, oh, well, my pet issue is GMO labeling, and my pet issue is racism, and my pet issue is this, and my pet issue is that, and animal rights, and my pet issue is climate change. And then they segregate themselves, and that becomes the central issue for them, and that's what they live for. And they're constantly out there, fight climate change, man. Fight climate change, and that's all they care about, So basically what they do is they enter an orphanage.
A political orphanage.
Yeah, it's a political orphanage, and they sit there for the rest of their lives in this orphanage that is designed specifically for this type of child. And the matron who's in control of it is the leader, and it's like, oh, yeah. And that's about it, And there's no unity in orphanages, you see. So when this old left has this thing about orphan politics, it tends to orphan itself. And then it seems like the only thing that they can agree on as far as economics is tax the rich to pay for things. We're going to make the government play Robin Hood. And then they go back to their orphanage. They just open the window long enough to say tax the rich. Do we all agree? And they say, yes, solidarity, and then it's back into the cages. But the thing is that the government can't play Robin Hood in that context, where Robin Hood goes out and he takes from the rich and then he gives it to the poor. Okay, what he's taking from the rich. The government can't do that. Surely the government can tax the rich and can also give to the poor. But then we all know what I'm talking about when we say the government can't play Robin Hood. We don't have to play a game of semantics, do we? They clearly mean the government can go out there on its horse with the merry men and collect from the rich and then take that pot to every poor person's house, knock on the door and go, and they say, "Oh, God bless you, sir." Yeah, it's not going to work that way. The government can't do that.
Tiny Tim.
I did. As a matter of fact, back during the Greek crisis, I used Tiny Tim as a joke about the European Central Bank. Please, sir, more. And have all the taxpayers. You had the German taxpayers, Austrian taxpayers, the French taxpayers. What? He wants more. I'm like, total nonsense. But. In a sense, they orphan themselves based on pet issues. And you can't unite around that. There's just no hope.
Well, I'm going to start us off here, Ellis, with our first post of the night. And you broke it down. You're like, can't spend no more. Federal government's in debt up to its eyeballs.
Can't spend no more. Difference there.
And you do realize people have been saying this for 180 years right now. Lauren, I'm 180 years old. I can't chase the bone anymore.
Yeah.
180 years they've been saying this nonsense, and here we are.
The government's still here.
We're at a very, very special time in political history, so to speak, where we've got an opportunity to be a movement. It's been a long time since there was a movement. And, I'll be honest with you, I've been watching this show, and forgive me for anybody that doesn't want to hear about Amazon Prime, but I'm going to tell you, I've been watching Amazon Prime here recently, and there is an Amazon original called Long Strange Trip. And, I am been a Grateful Dead lover for a long, long time. But I've also been a metalhead, so the two have been at odds with each other. And I do believe the Dead have overtaken my metalhood. But the thing was, what I loved about it, was watching the left, watching average Americans come together. Yes, under hallucinations and everything else, but nonetheless come together to push these things, push a movement forward. And, as we look at the concepts, then they didn't understand economics then for sure. And they didn't understand economics through the 70s for sure. And the 80s for sure. And the 90s for sure. The 2000s for sure. But here we are now. We have been pushing the ball hard, moving the chains, to use a football analogy. And here we are at a point where we've got someone who actually understands economics as one of the founding fellows at the Sanders Institute, who was Bernie Sanders' chief economic advisor, who was also the Democrats' Senate Budget Committee chief economist, and who is a modern monetary theory aficionado, guru, founder, whatever you want to call it, and for the identity politics in the room, happens to be a woman who is highly skilled, highly qualified, and immensely knowledgeable. I mean, here we are, 180 years worth of nonsense. Talk about this post, Ellis.
No, basically what it's saying is that the national debt of the United States, and this is just a post that relates solely to the U.S. here. National debt's been around for 180 years. Okay. Now, do you know of any entity that can carry a so-called actual debt, a debt for 180 years, and 180 years later have a military the size of which that rivals the Klingon Empire? No. And it's still here. You'll notice also, households go broke, people go broke, businesses go bust, but the government just keeps on going and going, doesn't it? Yet it's up to its eyeballs in debt. Can't spend no more. Well, I'm sorry to tell you. savings accounts aren't actually debt. Sorry. and these savings accounts have been around for 180 years. They're not going to bring the U.S. government down. They're not going to bring the government of the United Kingdom down, or Canada, or Japan will not fall into the sea. Okay, it's not going to collapse. And Australia is going to be fine. There is no unsupportable level of public debt at all. And, you know, people, they conflate the household with the federal government. And notice I didn't use the word budget. The last 2 years, I avoid the word budget when it applies to federal government all the time. I hate that word. It doesn't, it implies that the government has to go out and get something and then it has to carefully manage its money. And there's no such thing. I refer to it as the fiscal agenda. But occasionally I have to use the word budget to facilitate some kind of understanding because people go, what do you mean by fiscal agenda? You know, so I have to explain myself. But the national debt being 180 years old, you would think that at some point now, after that long, it would occur to you that maybe it's not a problem. But yet you're going to hear these people using the word can't, not can't, can't, and they're going to be telling you that we're still paying for what Reagan's hair jelly. Okay, it's just nonsense. It's absolute nonsense.
Well, okay, so for the crowd out there, let's take it to the next one. I just want to bring up your next thought here. This, I don't know how well this is going to fit, but I'm going to give it a shot. It's kind of a big one.
And that was a short post too, but I think it's because I keep hitting the return thing.
Yes.
I want to separate the things, you know, into a list so people focus one at a time all the way down. You know? But anyway, go ahead.
I'm going to see if I can actually read this, Sir Ellis, and I'm going to do my best to read it. Let's see if I can pull it off. It says, if I'm not mistaken, it says, briefly, once more on the subject of federal taxes not being revenue for the federal government. Mm-hmm. High-powered money, HPM, is injected into reserve accounts. Right. HPM, high-powered money, is a liability of the federal government, not commercial banks, knuckleheads, not private banks. You didn't say that, but that was my editorial. HPM is what settles tax liabilities to the federal government. HPM, once again, high-powered money. Treasury debts.
It should say debits, but that's a typo.
Treasury debits HPM out of the banking system entirely. And in doing so, it destroys high-powered money to settle tax liabilities. Right. The Federal Reserve is the central bank. The Federal Reserve is a creation of the Rothschilds. The Federal Reserve is a creation of Congress. Congress is a part of the federal government. The U.S. Treasury is a part of the federal government. The Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve is an agency of the federal government. Do the flipping math. All right. Ellis.
Yeah. Yes. That relates back to that post I did about 3 days ago, that really long one about why federal taxes aren't revenue. And it's just sort of like, you know, people are asking, well, wait, I don't understand. I said, okay, briefly, one more time, and I just throw these things out. You know, look, here it is. There's a lot of confusion, you know, and they, okay, well, how is it destroyed? And I said, well, read the original article that I wrote. The government okay, Federal Reserve notes, okay? Federal Reserve notes, damn it. Bank reserve balances that are held in the reserve accounts. These things are liabilities of the central bank, okay? It's high-powered money. When the government spends, when Treasury credits a bank account, okay? All right, the bank account, the individual bank account rises, you know, the balance rises there. But in the reserve accounts, in the bank's reserve account, high-powered money is injected into there. Okay, it's the HPM, the high-powered money, that settles the tax liability. Surely you can go out to Chase or Bank of America, whatnot, and take out a loan to pay your federal taxes, and that's because A loan is just a bank IOU that's been denominated in the government's unit of account, which would be dollars in this case, because we're talking about the United States. And so you can pay your taxes with it. But see, it's settled with high-powered money, which is government money. Only the government issues high-powered money, and that's created in transactions between the government and the non-government sector. So, see, and it's destroyed in the same way. All right. So the point that I made in the original post was simple. The government, in order for it to literally get its hands on your tax dollars, right? If it's going to collect these tax dollars, in order to get its hands on them, it has to destroy them. So because you see, Treasury's account sits outside of the banking system. Okay, Treasury spends from an account that is not part of the monetary base, or what we call the stock of money. It's only when Treasury spends, what Treasury spends becomes part of it, you see. So when Treasury reaches into a bank's reserve account and pulls out that high-powered money, it's gone forever. See, and so the stock of money drops. Okay, and so the very moment that the central bank then credits Treasury's account, it's destroying high-powered money. So the entire point is the only possible way for the federal government to actually spend is for it to spend dollars into existence, or the technical explanation would be for it to create high-powered money. High-powered money creation, the direct creation of high-powered money.
Where does high-powered money live, Ellis?
It lives in a reserve account at the Federal Reserve, and it never leaves. It shifts back and forth between reserve accounts. Oh, well, you also, you have Federal Reserve notes. Those are liabilities too. I didn't mention that, did I? I forgot. The liabilities of the central bank. Okay? Federal Reserve notes, bank reserves, liabilities of the central bank. See how that works? They are liabilities of. They're not assets. Dollars are not assets for the government. They're liabilities, okay? So when you get a hold of one of these central bank liabilities and then you pay your tax, your tax liability is canceled, and so is the government's liability. They annihilate. I mean, you can't have a tax liability and a tax credit and apply the credit without the credit being annihilated. You can't just remain and float around. It's not going to work that way.
Well, and just so everybody understands, these are accounting identities. I mean, we're talking about double entry accounting. Yeah. We're talking about some basic accounting things that just simply are there as good, generally accepted accounting practices. I mean, this is stuff that we should all understand if we've taken Accounting 101 or any basic bookkeeping. You look at your bank statement even. It's very, very similar. If you want to look at your household budget in that regard, there's some very serious ways of canceling these things out. Being able to understand the operations. All right, so I want to bring on to the next post that you had here, Ellis. This one looks like it's fun. I'll just read it off for you. It says, you are told that the U.S. government is flat, busted, broke. And you are told that the UK government is also flat, busted, broke. Then you are told that the UK government lends the US government money. And you believe that shit. You mean to tell me you're hearing this shit that you didn't once ask yourself, wait a minute, how the fuck is that possible? TV off button, use it. I mean, this is priceless, Ellis. Go ahead.
About 3 or 4 years ago, I made this point. It may have been 5 years ago. It was a long time ago. Some guy made the point that the U.S. government's borrowing money from the government of the United Kingdom. Okay, and why is that? It's because the U.S. government's broke, but UK government's broke too, right? And how the fuck is it doing that then? Doing what? Loaning money to the U.S. government if they're both broke.
That's a great question.
How the hell are you doing that? How the hell are you doing that? All right, so the point, though, it really is that when you get down to it in the brass tacks, you're talking about British companies that are doing business in the US, and they're paid in dollars. You know what I'm talking about. But politicians like to say, well, China is lending the US government money. And then it goes back to Obama was wearing out his arm, cranking out the dollars to pay the rent. And China was coming for the rent check, and China was going to seize the Mississippi. Everything west of the Mississippi because we couldn't afford to pay China back. It's just nonsense. But this furthers the point of we could just if people could just for a moment drop the politics, okay? Just drop all your hobby with politics. Just drop it and use your brains, okay? Because that's what they're for. They're for thinking. So let's use them. Let's imagine Russia, okay, holds about 109.4 billion as of April 2017 in U.S. Treasuries. So what this would mean then, if we use the mainstream argument here, this means that Russia is literally loaning the broke U.S. government money, knowing full well that the U.S. government will use that money to expand its military. That makes lots of sense, doesn't it? I mean, if I were Russia, and this were really true, would I, in my right mind, loan a superpower and as aggressive a superpower as the United States? Would I loan it money knowing that it was going to expand its military? Well, then that means that all of these nations have lost their minds. Just give the U.S. money, watch it expand. Isn't that wonderful? Now it's going to go off and kill everybody. And I made another point about that today, too. Not to get off topic, but this absurdity about the government having no money of its own. It was built by nature. It was built by design by the founding fathers, not to just be penniless and have to depend on taxpayers to fund it. Okay, so here it is. Behold, I am the federal government. I have the power. Witness my awesome power to sally forth amongst nations and blow nations to Jesus. Now give me some money. Do you know how stupid that sounds? I mean, really. Here's the United States. Let's go over to Syria and blow the shit out of it. Let's go to Iraq and blow the shit out of it. Let's go to Afghanistan and blow them all to Jesus. Has the power to do that, but just not good with money. Yeah, it's just like those televangelists. You know how they talk, God needs money. And God's just not good with money. He's just not good with money. He's constantly got his hat out with these televangelists. Give it because God needs your money. Because I need your money. That's the way it is.
It makes all the sense in the world when you take the stupid out of your ears and put it on the corner and you just leave it alone and you pick up your brains again where you left them, probably in the bathroom on the kitchen sink. Maybe you left them, in the kitchen when you were making coffee. Maybe you left them on the floor when you were picking up your kids' toys that night. I don't know. But the bottom line is that we tend to leave our brains behind when we have these very, very basic ideas that should be like no-brainers. You should be like, duh, what are you talking about?
That's the interesting thing, isn't it? Because these same people that are peddling this, okay, are telling you. Yeah, there you go. Make it go crazy and then just go,
I don't even know what to do with it. It's such a friggin' disaster. Who cares, right?
But, the mainstream peddles this nonsense, not about, about the government being broke and other nations are lending it money to get by, so it can get by. They also peddle the nonsense, the fallacy of composition, that the government budget is the same as a household's budget. Okay, so if you understand from a household perspective that if you are broke, flat busted broke and have no money whatsoever, and someone comes up to you and says, can you loan me $20? It's not possible. Yet for some reason, the broke UK government is able, in its broken state, to lend the US government, who is also broke, money. It's just, you believe that, but I mean, come on. It's just all nonsense. I mean, I'm sorry to sound so juvenile, but I've found over the last 6 years that sometimes you have to reach down into a sorry state of juvenile thinking just to shake people loose of this nonsense, you know? So I realized that the Post doesn't sound very professional and I got it. I understand. But sometimes it's what's required. I mean, you got to get in there and say, look, and you believe that shit? Think about this now. Brains for thinking. Use them. You know?
Absolutely. You know, it's got me crazy because, all right, I'm going to take this out of the fun zone for just a moment, and I'm going to put it on the oh shit zone. You know, bottom line is that we are surrounded by Republicans. We don't even realize it. Now, Republicans are not the only great evil in the world. We have much of this great evil in our own midst. They're maybe meaning well. Maybe they're really, really great tap dancers. Maybe they play a mean game of checkers. But the fact of the matter is that these same people are the ones peddling the myths that keep us from really. Imagine if we all understood this shit and we said, wait a minute, hold on. So you mean to tell me that people are dying for no fucking good reason? And then you look, this is when you're, but folks, I'm telling you right now, this is when it's going to really make you snap. You're going to lose your ever-loving mind when this part hits you. When you look at your friends in the movement, and your friends are sitting there telling you, but what about the dead? And all of a sudden you realize you can't even fight the fucking Republicans. You can't even fight the fucking LOL libertarians. You can only fucking clean your side of the street because your own fucking camp, the people that are, well, he's so progressive who gets things done, Steve. Why are you being so hard on him? Don't bash so-and-so. Don't bash him. And I'm like, can that motherfucker pay for these bills or not? Does he fucking know how to do it or not? If the answer is crickets, then it's a throat punch and it's done. I don't care if you call yourself a progressive. If you don't get economics, you cannot enact any of your wonderful ideas. You can't. So you're as useless as a used diaper to me at that point if you're not willing to learn economics. I'm not even joking. This is the most serious you're going to ever hear me. I looked at my son tonight playing in a little baby pool, and I looked at him and I said, my God, son, you know what? The one thing I want to do before I die is change the way these people look at economics. If I can't do that, I failed you because you're going to suffer because of their pure, unadulterated idiocy. And that's the God's honest truth. We're all dead. Folks, do you get this? We are all fucking Grenfell Towers, death of a tsunami, friggin' horrible methane explosions, kind of dead if we don't get the economics. It's no joke. It's time to take off the gloves and it's time to get fucking serious. I should have been nasty as fuck a year ago. I've gotten progressively worse. I'm getting to the point now where I realize my children's lives are on the line because of ass crystals that are sitting there dingleberrying around about freaking debt and deficits and wanting to see Trump's fucking tax returns and not realizing how goddamn important this is right now. That's the serious note of the night, folks. I'm not flinching. I'm not kirking a slight smile. There's not an ounce of joke in that statement. I am disgusted with the idiocy in our own movement. These people that will sit there and trudge in place, march in place, and absolutely have no ability to pay for one single environmental fix on the planet, not one single healthcare bill on the planet, and goddamn not one single infrastructure or student debt relief. This is a problem in our movement as bad, if not equal to racism, because guess what? You can't solve the inner city blight. You can't solve the problems of the inner city. You cannot help generational poverty, and you most certainly cannot provide reparations for a destroyed group of people. You cannot do that if you don't understand economics, period. And that's not a joke. You cannot do any of this shit if you don't get this stuff. You want to call yourself a revolutionary? You want to call yourself a progressive? You better fucking learn some econ or we all lose. Straight up, we all lose. Our kids die. You see those pictures on National Geographic of the kids dying? That is your kids when the freaking disasters come because you were too cool for school to fucking learn economics. Sorry, that's my fucking slam dance of the day, Ellis. I'm so fucking livid about it. It's in our own midst. I can't even look at the Republicans because of it. That's horrible. It's horrible.
Well, the way that I put it earlier in the week, I don't know if you selected that particular post because I think it was too long.
Yes.
for a little thing there, but in summary, the old left is problematic, and I would venture a guess to say that this is what you're talking about is the people that comprise what is the old left. I refuse to acknowledge the left's existence. Basically, the way I put it is simple. The left does not exist because of what I said, often politics. You can't exist if you're not unified. So I guess you've got a bunch of unified climate change activists and you've got unified animal rights activists, okay? How many more little orphanages do you need? You know, it's not going to work. And a new left is required. I've been saying this for about a year. Only recently I'm getting up there and talking about it a lot. But this new left, what it has to do is it has to adopt all of the pet things, all the things that the ineffective old left hold dear. All the things, climate change, animal rights, you know, you name it. It has to adopt all those things. So it has to be a package deal. But it has MMT at the core. That's a unified left. That's a new left. And that's what's required. And I don't mean it in the sense of like new Labour or new Democrats. I mean a new left that's actually functional, that's united. And if these people want to sit in their orphanages and play, you know, that's fine. But, you know, you need to understand, and I said this week, if you're going to go out there and say, well, as an animal rights activist, one of these issues is I want no-kill shelters throughout the nation. Okay, so let's say you got politically active and you guys joined together in your little orphanage of animal rights and you succeeded in bringing no-kill shelters, making it the law of the land, bringing them all across the United States. Now it's law of the land. There are no more kill shelters ever. What have you done for anyone else? What have you done for human beings? What have you done for the planet? What have you done for sustainable energy? What have you done for healthcare? What have you done for anything? Nothing. But like I said, I submit to you that if you put MMT at the core and what it implies, all right, and you pursue that, you not only solve the problem of the no-kill shelter thing, this is what you want, but you also save human lives in the process, okay? You can achieve everything all at once, okay? It's real simple to understand. The problem is not money. The money is infinite. I hate that word money, right? But okay, but the dollars are infinite. It takes dollars to feed dogs, animals, cats, yeah? Right? It takes dollars. Is that not? It takes money. Is that not right, Steve? It takes dollars to feed stray animals that are in shelters. It takes dollars to medicate them and pay the vet bills, right? It takes dollars to run the power bill, to pay the power bill, to run electricity, so you can, you know, right? It takes dollars to pay workers and volunteers. I don't know, right? It takes dollars, all right? The dollars come from the government and it spends them into existence. The dollars are not the problem. They're infinite. The thing is do these animal rights activists think that there are enough vets, there's enough pet medicines, there's enough pet food, and do we have the resources to build high-tech, huge, no-kill shelters? And the answer is yes. Okay, so then the US government can fund it like that. All right, so if it can do that, it can also handle climate change. If it can do that, it can bring out sustainable energy. It can do infrastructure modernization. It can end involuntary unemployment. It can abolish it by bringing in a federal job guarantee. Why? Because, as Stephanie Kelton has said, money does not grow on rich people. It's real simple. It grows from the government is a money factory. It's a dollar factory. It's where all your dollars come from. So if you want to solve your animal rights thing, how are you going to do it without the money? Oh, well, I'll just tax the rich. So what you're basically saying is that the rich, all of them, have enough money to fund in perpetuity a job guarantee, universal health care, infrastructure modernization, no-kill shelters, and every other left-wing cause that you can imagine. Really. They have that much money. I mean, they have infinite supplies. Right. You know, at some point, you're going to have to come to your senses and realize that government's your friend. It's just filled up to the hilt with neoliberals who are controlling it. They're the Grima worm tongue, okay, to the federal government. You know, federal government's King Theoden. Neoliberal politicians are Grima worm tongue there, and they're speaking into the ear. Yeah, right, exactly, and that's it. That's the problem. Okay,
very wise.
Yes, that's the problem. And in reality, all you need is a new left with MMT at its core, what it unifies around, to come waltzing in there, grab Grima Wormtongue and kick him down the fucking steps and out of your house.
Ellis, I want to take something real quick on this. This is a big deal. One of our faithful, Jupiter Harmony, has been speaking, writing some things up there, and she's absolutely right about this. It makes me very sad. But there's a lot of people out there who are focusing on Bitcoin right now, and they don't realize exactly. I mean, seriously, this is the sign. When you see this happening, you realize that people just don't get it. Please tell me about universal health care with Bitcoin. No,
that doesn't even make sense accidentally.
Oh, my bad. So the elbow of truth is dropped squarely on the people that read the Bitcoin Daily blog and all the other bullshit that goes with it. Oh, wait, hold on. Bitcoin is going to save the climate because it's going to... Oh, shit. Yeah. Oh, that's right. It's not. And what about... Oh, it's not going to give universal college to everybody. It's not going to discharge 1.2 trillion of student debt. It's going to do precisely dick.
It can't.
Precisely dick. It's like a means of exchange and nothing more. It's
Bitcoin is Bitcoin, just to help you out, because you're going, Bitcoin is not a currency like the US dollar or the British pound or the Australian dollar or the Japanese yen. It's not a currency. It's a payment system.
Exchange, yes.
It's a payment system. That's all it is. So, okay, well, I'm going to use this payment system to fund universal health care. How? You still need the dollar. What are you talking about? You know,
so infuriating because this is what happens when you allow good acoustic guitar and fire time to go to waste. We should be talking about getting laid. We should be talking about smoking some good herb. We should be talking about friggin' purple microdot, but we should not be talking economics because it's not the right forum, because you end up getting people with no understanding of sovereign currency, no understanding of federal programs, no understanding of any of that, and all of a sudden we start conflating shit, and all of a sudden it's all gibberish, and it's like, well, I don't know what to do with this, and it's like, well, it's because you don't have anything. It's going to the Franklin Mint and purchasing a bunch of coins. It's like they're only as good as whatever time frame is there, and then you still got to exchange them for U.S. dollars. You still have to exchange them for U.S. dollars. So what's the point? I mean, it ends up becoming a shit show. I don't understand why people don't get, what is it that you want? Do you want single payer health care? Do you want green energy? Do you want student debt eradication? Do you want paid family and medical leave? Do you want to do an infrastructure bill that fixes all the bridges throughout the United States? If you do, tell your Bitcoin friends they're a bit coined in the brain, because the reality is that this is the nonsense that doesn't get us where we need to be. It doesn't. It's just more propaganda nonsense. Don't get me wrong. There's a place for Bitcoin. I might use it someday in its right fashion.
But it's a payment system.
It's a payment system, exactly.
It's not a currency. It's not a currency at all. Okay, you just don't fund things like it. Just doesn't work that way. I'm sorry, it just doesn't work that way. It's a payment system, and when you say to me, basically what you're telling me is that I'm going to fund universal healthcare with a payment system. Okay.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. You're gonna what? We already have a payment system, so you have this central bank.
Right now, let's just talk about one more thing here, real quick, because I mean the hits just keep on coming, right? So let's just say hypothetically, worst case scenario. Let me play the devil's advocate of all the potential worst case scenarios. Our election system is broke. It's FUBAR. We can't do anything. We're all going to die. Our powers that be are all neoliberals. They're not going to spend on us. We're all going to die. The fact that we can't seem to do anything with the electoral process means we're all going to die. Folks, let me tell you something. I don't know if this registers with you or not, but it does with me. And the reason why we do this day in and day out, if we show up in mass and we go to town halls, if we show up in mass to these town halls, to our congressman's office, congressperson's office, to Capitol Hill, to the streets of DC, to our local streets, to our senators, our congressmen, every single one of these places, to every single CNN event, to every single MSNBC event, to every one of these things. If we start showing up in numbers, in mass, and saying, God damn it, cut the austerity, you would have a global movement because Europe's already in on this thing. Europe already understands the pain of austerity. We're still trying to figure out whether we want to fight this shit. We're going to die from it. But, we can't fix the electoral system. Congress will never spend on us. Well, you know what? When I see one of these motherfuckers that sit there and say that, when I see one of these motherfuckers that does that, I'm looking and I'm trying to see when they were out there protesting about austerity, and I haven't found them out there yet. Not a once. That means you're an idiot, a loser, a microphone abuser, a worthless waste, and someone to be ignored. I'm telling you right now, when they are out there, when we are in mass, doing this activism shit we claim to love and do, okay? When we're writing letters, when we're showing up, when we're making phone calls, when we're phone banking these guys' offices and saying, what the fuck? When we're sitting there standing out in front of Cory Booker's office going, oh, no, you didn't. Oh, no, you didn't. Okay? And when we're doing things for real and meaning it, okay, that's when you're going to see some change with or without electoral reform. Let me just state that again. With or without electoral reform. The one thing that they don't want is absolute chaos from the masses. You give them civil disobedience. You give them straight up people participating in democracy, whether it's a sham in the elections or not. We act as if, and we go out there and take the power to them. You're going to see change. If you sit there on your thumbs talking about, well, I was once a good sales guy, it's not going to work out for you. It's not going to work out for you. And it's not going to work out for any of us. To change the system, we got to really mean it. And that's the only way it's going to happen. You want to know how it's going to happen? I just laid it out for you. That's how it will happen. Period. And you want to talk about the economists that sit there and say stupid shit like Paul Krugman? Okay, watch Kruggy sit there and fall on the sword after he realizes the people aren't putting up with this shit anymore. Watch Peter Schiff go into hiding in one of his many bunkers when he realized people aren't putting up with his laugher curve anymore.
I think Paul would, rather than go into hiding, I think Paul would resort to his usual approach of ex post rationale. That's exactly what Paul would do. He would claim that he said in 2009, like he did, me in 2009, central bank doesn't control the money supply. Yeah, right. What'd you say in 1998, Paul?
Exactly.
You know what you need? You need to know your Tobin. Because if you did, everything would be clear. Before it was just Hicks. Now it's Tobin too, and Paul's always been an endogenous money guy. And it's just unbelievable The orthodoxy, how well they will backpedal just to keep themselves alive. I mean, it's just dumb.
It's on us, though, Ellis. Look, seriously. People sit there and say, they aren't going to do this. They aren't going to do that. They aren't going to do anything. And then I look around, and you know what? Here's where the Republicans get something right, okay? Here's where the Republicans get something right. This is a personal responsibility moment, okay? This is one of those bootstrap moments. This is absolutely the epitome of a bootstrap moment. For those people who cannot get out in the streets because they're trapped working 3 jobs, for the mother with 6 kids or the father who stay at home with 6 kids or whatever, that can't do these things. It's up to us that can to either be public on the airwaves, to be public on Facebook, YouTube, wherever, to be in their faces to take care of this shit. Okay? This is a matter of personal responsibility. If you are actually, see, I have been saying this, and I'm going to keep going on this tear. I don't believe many people that claim to be for the environment really are for the environment. Because without understanding economics, they cannot get the fix to any of their problems. They can only bitch and moan and complain about the problem. And maybe that's the racket. Maybe that is the racket, Ellis. Maybe racking money to just keep beating on the problem.
To some people it is, especially lobbyists. I mean, lobbyists don't give a fuck. They're just there for the paycheck. I'm being serious. Now, I'm not sitting there saying every single environmental activist is on the take. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that in a lot of these cases, there are people out there that simply don't want a solution because it would take away their meaning in life. It would take away all their meaning in life because this is what they do,
Well, that's the same shit with the economists, Ellis.
Yeah, it's different though. People like Paul Krugman or Krugman. Here's the thing with them is that they've spent their whole lives with this. Okay, they don't like being told they're wrong. They don't want to fess up that they're wrong. They don't want to admit responsibility. What they want to do is just maintain their position of influence. Okay, and they'll say or do whatever they have to do to keep up with this market worship. All right, New Keynesians peddle nonsense. I'm sorry, it's just the way it is. I don't care that Paul Krugman. I said it before. I call him Krugman because I call him Count Krugula. It sounds better than Count Krugula. But Krugman. See, the problem with Krugman is this. He doesn't give a damn about being right in reality. He's just trying to preserve his position of influence. And he's trying to preserve New Keynesianism, or New Keynesian theory as the orthodoxy. That's what he's trying to do. That's what he will persist in doing. And when they do that, they say some of the dumbest things that a person can hear. Now, I know to a non-economist, to a layperson or whatnot, or the uninitiated, what they're saying doesn't make sense to begin with in a lot of cases. But I assure you, on a professional level, it's asshattery. It's the highest form of asshattery there is.
Speaking of which, I have a meme for you, Ellis, that I'm going to bring up here. Keep talking.
Yeah. And so, as I was saying about Krugman, I do not give a damn about what he sounds like when he's talking politics. I say, oh, well, see, he cares about the working man. Oh, he cares about this. Oh, he cares about progressive issues. He's against the Republicans, therefore he's for us. Blah, blah, blah. Push all that aside, because this is the man who is trying to convince people that deficits are okay when Democrats in the White House, but when Republicans are in the White House, deficits are suddenly intrinsically bad. Yeah, that's science for you, all right? I mean, come on. The man is just trying to preserve his position of influence and keep the Keynesian theory from falling out of the orthodoxy. They're under tremendous threat from MMT and the heterodox community. And, you know, it's only a matter of time now. But the thing is this. You don't have to trust. I mean, I wouldn't trust an economist, okay? You just won't, because I said it before, and it's my final word, at least for tonight, on the subject, is it's horospisy. It's an ancient Etruscan religion where they go into these models that they've created that are asinine to begin with. They go in there and they rip open the belly like you would a sacrificial animal, and they look around in the entrails to try and divine the will of the market god. Okay? It's a bunch of horse shit. DSG is horse shit. Okay? ISLM is horse shit. None of this has anything to do with reality. Okay? And these are the people that are advising politicians, you see. So, let's not talk anymore about this before foul language starts flying. You see, that's why I'm stuttering, because I'm trying desperately to suppress.
Well, here, let me pull one of my ghosts from today, okay? So I hope that folks understand what I'm about to say, because this right here was one of the ones that I posted today, and I feel like it's important. I'm like, how can we continue to placate people who are triggered by economic truth? You know that word triggered, where people feel like, oh my goodness, I'm triggered. Well, maybe it's time for us to remember economic illiteracy is directly responsible death, murder, and suicide. Economic illiteracy is an unacceptable evil we can no longer treat as innocent ignorance. It is directly responsible for the malaise in this country and around the world. Learn MMT, fight economic illiteracy. I mean, this right here, my friend, to me, this is where I've been sitting at. I'm at this point, Ellis, where I realize that there are a lot of people out there who have heard the spiel repeatedly, have seen empirically the truth. They don't give a shit. They don't care. I consider them to be a murderer by proxy. Their efforts lead to death. That makes them just as lethal as a bomb, just as lethal as a gun, just as lethal as death by arsenic or any other thing, death by poison. I don't care. When you purposely double down on economic illiteracy, you have taken the life of someone, whether you accept that death or not. You are responsible, okay? And that's my shtick, man. That's where I'm at on this. I believe in my heart of hearts that if every progressive ceased saying worthless things about the economy and the Rothschilds and all the other nonsense and the conspiracies, and instead focused on destroying neoliberalism with an MMT base based on a federal job guarantee, expanded Social Security to offset those who don't want to participate in the federal job guarantee, and also on top of that, the infrastructure bill, you name it, we would have eradicated it. Obviously, we could go way beyond Medicare for all, folks. We could literally go to healthcare as a right. We could do so many things, and we will not, because our own movement refuses to get out of its way. Let me put this up again, just so you see how I feel, so you understand how I actually feel. I really feel this way. I do. This is not Ellis's words. He doesn't have to be held to this. I'm telling you, I feel this way. I find people that purposely ignore economic truth to literally be murderers, like literally putting a gun in someone's mouth and capping them. That's what I think about those who peddle economic lies. So there you go.
What you could say, I guess the way I would put it, in a different way, but same outcome, I guess you could say. The words that I would use is that when you think about the orthodoxy and when you think about neoclassical economics, it's like giving children a loaded gun to play with. This mainstream nonsense has to stop because it's resulting in death everywhere. I mean, look over at the UK. I'll point there again. not to mention Greece, but I want to point at UK first. People dying from austerity. In Greece, it's unimaginable horror. I mean, it's nothing but a colony of Germany now. Imposing such tremendous evil on people committing suicide. It's really hard for me to talk about. But the thing is that when you allow orthodoxy to run rampant like this, which is actually you have neoliberalism running rampant, but when you allow orthodoxy to get in there and advise politicians on what to do, it's like giving children a loaded gun and say, go play. Yeah, eventually they're going to end up killing somebody. And then when that does happen, when austerity happens, you'll hear them backpedal. They'll say, no, we never recommended austerity. Austerity was a terrible thing. We were always opposed to it. That's nonsense.
Well,
it's total nonsense,
I want to put Jonathan Rodriguez's comment up because I think he's just getting started, maybe doesn't understand. This is a great opportunity to break out some 101, just to kind of answer him. He's like, is MMT good for the economy compared to austerity? And Ellis, I mean, give the 3-minute MMT elevator pitch. MMT simply is. It is. It's just
MMT is just a description of the monetary system as it stands today. It doesn't mean how it's being used. It just means as it is, how it functions. It describes the UK, Australia, Japan, Canada, all these nations, including the EMU as well. It's got nothing to do with the economy per se, and it's like something that we have to go out and get, and then it would be good for the economy. It just is a description of how the monetary systems of nations function. Warren Mosler said it's currency analysis. That's what it is. As far as austerity is never good for an economy. Again, I'll point to Greece as prime evidence, as prima facie evidence that austerity is murder. Okay, austerity is violence. That's what it is. And there's even in the European Monetary Union, where you have a bunch of, I hate that word bunch, but Americans, you have a group of nations that are not monetarily sovereign, okay, and there's no central fiscal authority. And in this group of, in this currency union, it's violence, damn it. But austerity is violence. But the thing is that these nations that are part of this, they don't have to be non-monetarily sovereign. In fact, they're not doing their jobs properly as governments by making themselves deliberately non-monetarily sovereign governments, because they cannot react to problems in the domestic economy. They cannot react correctly to unemployment, And so in this situation in the EMU, the European Monetary Union, Greece could leave. It could exit and reclaim its drachma and reestablish its central bank and get on with it. And Italy could do the same thing. It's not a given that they have to stay that way. They can just walk out. They can exit. And they should, because it's a nightmare. It's a madhouse. Greece is a killing field of austerity. Austerity is violence. If you do not believe that, ask the Greek people. If you do not believe that austerity is violence, ask the British people. Ask all the families of loved ones who were victims of austerity. Grenfell, how about that? Or how about all the people who had their benefits sanctioned? How about all the people who were stripped of their benefits or declared fit for work when they were dying to begin with, and it killed them that much sooner? How many people died in the UK? The UK is a bloody abattoir. For the last 7 years, it's been an abattoir under the Tory austerity regime. Austerity is bad. Okay, now, with that being said, the correct definition of austerity Austerity, and I want to make this absolutely clear to people because I see this on a daily basis. Austerity is not a reduction in government spending. Not necessarily. Okay? People are always told, well, what austerity is when the government goes and it cuts its deficits so that it can save, it can get its financial house in order. That's not what austerity is. Austerity is a deliberate shift. It's a deliberate motion of fiscal policy away from anything public purpose related. Okay? So when you understand austerity in that manner, then you clearly understand that government spending can rise, even though government itself, it takes up a position of austerity. Okay? Its fiscal stance is literally austerity, but yet government expenditure is rising. We have data to show this. Look at the UK. Okay, the national debt, they claim, is just getting larger and larger and larger over the last 7 years during the Tory regime. Well, then spending hasn't been reduced, has it? Yet there was austerity. The fiscal position of the government, it's a shift away from the public purpose and towards things that benefit the wealthy few. That's never good for the economy, ever.
So let's bring up your one post here real quickly. I love this one, so I figured it would be good to get this one in to kind of cap us off as we go into the tail end of this. Falling for the line that federal taxes are revenue for the federal government is exactly the same thing as falling for the banana in the tailpipe trick over and 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 over.
It is. God bless Eddie Murphy. You're not going to fall for the banana in the tailpipe? But yeah, people fall for it constantly. You got a bunch of kids in the neighborhood, and they come up to your car and they shove a potato up in your tailpipe, and you boom, okay, and then you let them do it again and again and again. That's basically believing that federal taxes. Every time you hear a politician say something stupid and daft like taxpayer dollars, or this is putting a huge burden on the taxpayer. Whenever you hear stupid shit like that and you believe it, you're falling for the banana in the tailpipe routine. That's exactly what's happening. And you keep falling for it over and over and over again. And you figure after a while, you just not want to fall for it. And people say, well, how are we supposed to know? And I'll tell you how you're supposed to know that politicians are lying to you with regard to federal spending and federal tax operations and the national debt. Here's how you know. You always tell me that politicians are liars, they lie about everything. But when it comes to federal spending, taxation, and public debt, they're telling the truth. Right. Whatever. You should know better not to trust a politician. Okay? Please.
Here, speaking of that, let me bring up another post of mine, daring to be so bold here. I want to just read this out loud. I started asking myself how people expect to enact a Green New Deal while simultaneously trying to tear down the system that would enable it. The two are mutually exclusive. Learn MMT and stop pandering to those who read conspiracies for their econ knowledge. There really are people who genuinely know how to make a Green New Deal happen without allowing thousands to die, waiting for a new system, decimating capitalism, and owning the means of production. There is never a wrong time to save the planet and save lives. The time is now.
Exactly. And it can be done. It can be done now. I mean, my best guess, a federal job guarantee, the moment signed into law, take up and running, fully operational in 12 months. It'd be fully, not saying that it'd be fully funded in 12 months because the deficit's automatic. What I mean to say is that there it is, and it would be functional. You'd have all these job guarantee offices open in all sorts of local communities, and off you go. 12 months. In 12 months, we can completely abolish involuntary unemployment forever. Okay? And it's really that simple. Green is sustainable energy, sustainable output. Sustainable output would require government to shift the way we view economic growth to more sustainable measures, where you start with a new sustainable energy grid and infrastructure, right? Government just funds it. Why? Because Congress authorizes it. If you put 535 Stephanie Keltons in Congress, and you say, I would like to have green energy and infrastructure modernization, the answer is, okay, fund it. And the government will fund it. It's really that simple. That's how you pay for things. That's how the government pays for. I hate that word, pays for. It's how the government achieves things. Do you want a military? Great. Then the government will create the dollars necessary. Okay? You don't have the private sector. The private sector does not have enough dollars to fund everything the government is doing. Sorry. Sorry to inform you. But if you think that the taxpayers themselves, who are also people who lend the government money through bond issuance, you think that they have enough money to fund all of this military and all this stuff that the federal government is and has done. Get out of your mind. That implies that the private sector itself has unlimited spending capacity. If that be the case, then why in the hell are people going broke? Nobody sits for a moment and just thinks about this story, this line they've been fed. Do you really believe that we dig dollars out of the ground? I mean, get serious. You're sitting there with a shovel and you're digging, and all of a sudden this paper thing with a picture of a guy and a number on it. Oh, and more come up, and suddenly you're rich. It's ridiculous. You think we pan it out of rivers and streams? What do you think the dollar is, a commodity? You're out of your mind. Okay? You're completely out of your mind if you think that. The truth about a dollar is simple. It's a voucher. In the professional sense, it's just an IOU of the federal government. But to the uninitiated, it's a voucher or a cinema ticket. How about that? And I've used this before. Other people have used this example before. You have a theater, okay? Right? And it has 200 seats. How many tickets can it issue per show? 200. Everybody sits there and they go, yeah, that's obvious. Okay. Now, the US government has the United States, and it has all these real resources, this production capacity. It can produce all these goods and services. Okay. And it has a capacity to produce X amount of goods and services. Okay. So then the government issues enough money to meet that capacity. And people say, oh my God, that's irresponsible. That shows you right there that there's a definite break when it comes to money versus common sense, ordinary, everyday things that are no different than money.
I want to read here real quick, Ellis, because this is a little troubling. I went on a good long tirade about what we need to do to bring about these changes physically, literally what we as individuals do. But I'm going to go ahead and read a comment that just came up. Jonathan Rodriguez, who I was given some credit a few minutes ago, I'm going to read this out loud. He says, what are you asking for then if MMT is just a description of the economic system? We don't want to implement it. We want to manipulate it to our advantage by understanding it. That's all? But what should we do tangibly to be able to get the politicians to do what we want them to do to pass the policies we want? Just educate ourselves and others? What else? I just sat there and said it.
The answer to that question is simple. MMT is not a description of the economic system. You're talking about macroeconomics, stock flow consistent modeling, or the stupidity of DSG. But MMT is a description. Try it this way: is a description of how the U.S. dollar works, where it comes from. In other words, where it originates from, its starting point, how it flows through the economy, how it exits the economy. Okay, how currency works. Okay, and what's implied from that is what's possible for the economy. Then when you get into the macroeconomics, which you then realize is if you have MMT is understood, okay, the currency analysis is understood, then you have macroeconomic reality. You have reality for a change instead of a modeling system where, like DSGE, where there's only one person in the economy and there's no money in this economy, but there's a central bank. And why, we don't know. Okay? And it can create inflation without money. And we don't know how that's possible. And there's a government, like Stephen Hale said, there's a government that borrows and it taxes. How? We don't know, because there's no money in this economy. And these neo-Keynesians who like hold on to it with great religious faith say, but it works. There's nothing wrong with DSGE. Yes, there is. It's not reality. It's complete horseshit. Okay? Horseshit. MMT is not horseshit. It's just an analysis of how currency works, which implies certain things that are possible for the macroeconomy. Okay?
I want to take a crack at one thing, though, that I think that is important that came out of this, that from a political standpoint is vital. Every day, every single morning you wake up, the TV comes on, they talk about how the United States is going to run out of dollars. Every day you've got some jackass talking about how we need to balance our budget. Every day we've got some other putz telling us how we have to somehow or another tighten our belts, eat our peas, suck it up, okay? Then we hear Ben Carson lying.
Ben Carson.
The United States, the single greatest thing that's going to hit us is the debt. The national debt's going to kill us. We're done. Oh my God, if we don't get this debt under control,
we're going to become ancient Egypt.
We're all dead. We're all dead. And so it's ridiculous. So when you ask what it is, when you've been lied to day in and day out, now mind you, I have mastered the art of incredulity. I'm just sitting here going, did he just say that? And it's like, yes, he really did just say that. And it's like, son of a bitch, he did say that, didn't he? And it's like, sadly, I'm so used to it because this is what we get a lot of times. And this is why this show keeps going on, because sadly, we don't realize the fact that when you turn on the boob tube, millions and millions of Americans watch that shit. And they sit there eating their popcorn, eating their weenies, eating their Vienna sausages and their friggin' almonds, and watching this crap, hearing the U.S. is broke. And then when we go into an election cycle and we're demanding, and in between we're demanding that they serve our needs, we're demanding single payer, and we're demanding that we shift to green energy, people go, oh, but it's going to be too expensive. How will we ever pay for it? How in the world could we ever pay for it? Oh my God, but the United States is broke. And then you've got these other dipshits that sit there and talk about how the United States government went broke in 1934 when we left the gold standard.
Okay,
and
so if you don't have any gold, we're broke.
Oh my God, it's
unbearable. If you don't have any gold, you're broke. What are we, King Solomon here? You're going to have some, wisdom of Solomon here. We need gold, otherwise we're broke, because gold is the only thing that is money. Gold is money. Everything else is just
disgusting. So, all right. So I want to put this last notice up here for you, Ellis. This is a good way to end this broadcast. And this is: unification of the left will only occur when progressive-minded people finally realize that the left doesn't exist, that it needs to frickin' exist, and then proceeds to organize itself around one central concern: economics. There you go, Ellis.
I use economics there as just a general statement to facilitate understanding, with people, with the general public. But what I'm really saying is the central concern is understanding how their government's financing of, their budget, how government spending works, okay, on the national level, how spending works in Australia, how it works in the UK, how government spending works in the US, federal spending, how it works in Canada. And when they understand that, all right, and when they understand what MMT implies, that's the political thing, is what it implies. When they understand that, they can unite because they will realize that everything that they believe in, their differences, their orphanages that we talked about at the beginning of this program, the climate change orphanage, the animal rights orphanage, and all these other orphanages, all of these problems can be solved now because MMT implies that they can be. Because the only limit to federal deficit spending is the real, the real ability of the economy to respond to that spending with output, or in other words, its capacity to produce. Okay? And when we say capacity to produce, we're talking about goods and services that you buy. Or do you forget about that every time you go to the store? Every time you walk into the grocers, or every time you go to a store and you buy something with money, do you really think that what you're actually doing is you're just walking into the store and just giving them money and walking out empty-handed? No, you're actually buying something with that money. Okay, the money is how the economy operates. It's a monetary economy. But what's important here are the real resources. What's important here are the goods and services. That's what's finite. Okay, and as long as we have the real resources in our nation, okay, to produce everything that we need, then the federal government can spend. It can create dollars and spend for it. Okay, and when you exceed that, you have to go persistently beyond the real production capacity of the nation. But when you do, you'll start to get demand pull inflationary pressure. So then the government has to either reduce its spending or increase taxation. That will control spending power, and the inflationary pressure will collapse like a clown in a cupboard. It's really that simple.
I want to give mucho props to Raven Black for what I'm going to call the comment of the century here, because this is exactly what we've been trying to say on so many levels. The only time we'll be able to elect people who understand how economics work is to get voters to understand how economics works.
Yeah, Raven wins the internet. Raven wins the internet. That is
absolutely get +10 interwebs. I mean, that is absolutely the comment of the century.
That's exactly the point, and that's exactly what a lot of us, a long time ago, came to the realization that you can't fight with Paul Krugman. You can't fight with Simon Wren-Lewis. You're not going to win these fights. Nobody's going to listen. So you're just going to have to take the case to the people. And guess what? The people are interested. Why? Because the people want to hear a message of hope. And that's what MMT, what it implies when you understand it. MMT implies hope. Genuine hope, though, you see? So there you have it. And if you have a population that's desperate, okay, people are willing to hear that. Right? Now, in the EMU, it might be a little bit different. I mean, because these people have been beaten down to the point where the apathy is like unbelievable. But in the UK, prior to this general election, we had tremendous success in getting information out there. And people are ready to hear it after all that suffering. They're ready to hear hope. And that's what MMT brings to the table, hope. It doesn't bring doom and gloom. It doesn't tell you what to be afraid of. It doesn't tell you who's got to sacrifice. It doesn't tell you that some of us have to die so others may live. It doesn't tell you that. The reason why it doesn't tell you that is because it informs you quite clearly that the national government, if it's a sovereign currency issuing government, issues its own currency. It's the only source. It's the monopoly issuer. That's where it comes from. Taxes are not revenue for the United States government. And the reason for that is because there's no gold peg. There's no peg of any kind. There's no fixed exchange rate. There's nothing. It's all fiat. Okay? That's it. End of story. It floats freely on an exchange. It's inconvertible. That means you can't go to the US Treasury, knock on the door and say, "Excuse me, I have a $10 bill here. I'd like $10 worth of gold." Treasury's just going to give you the double V. It's going to give you the finger. They get out. I'll give you 2 5s, or I'll give you 10 1s. And that's all you're going to get. Okay? So it's inconvertible. You can't convert it to anything, which means that the US government itself will only accept the dollar as payment for taxes, okay, to settle tax liabilities. Guess what? That goes back to what we talked about at the beginning of the show, right? High-powered money. It's government money. That's what settles the tax liability. So a sovereign currency issuing government has an infinite capacity to spend. That doesn't mean it should spend to infinity, because I already explained that just now. The real capacity of the economy to respond with output, that's the limit there. But there's nothing stopping the government from buying anything that is for sale priced in US dollars. Federal government can do it. It can outbid anybody, okay? Because it has all the money. It has an infinite supply, minus one, okay? An infinite supply.
You stroke it in.
The money is not a commodity. It's not a good. It's not a real good. It's not a real service. It's a voucher. It's a ticket to watch the show. And if you don't have enough money, you can't watch the show. Right? That's why people are starving to death. It's why people go homeless in sub-zero weather. They don't have the money. Because the government is not deficit spending to eliminate the problem. That's where the dollars come from. If you want dollars, you're going to have to go to the dollar issuer. That's the federal government. So who's in charge of that? The House of Representatives in the U.S. So you have to go to your representative and say, look, I want full employment through a job guarantee. I want to abolish involuntary unemployment forever. I'm tired of seeing people having to rely on welfare because you refuse to spend enough to support this economy. That's your job as a currency issuer. Now let's get with it. We need universal health care. Why do we need universal health? Why do we need an NH-style system in the US? I'll tell you why. Because a healthy workforce is a productive workforce. That's the economics there. There it is. End of story. Plus, it's a human right, for fuck's sake. All right? I'm a citizen. What are the benefits of citizenship in the United States? Poverty, desperation, and death. Oh, well, those are wonderful benefits. Fuck you. Would you join a country club if that country club's better? Would you join a country club if the benefits of membership were you get to clean the toilets and you never get to participate in any kind of lunch and you don't even get to play golf, you don't get to swim in the pool, you don't get to play tennis? What would be the fucking point? So then you ask yourself the question, I'm a citizen of the U.S. What are the benefits of citizenship?
A kick in the ass.
You can speak freely, I guess. Don't drive if you're black. I can listen to Tool, so I can listen to music if I want. I'm free to die of starvation. What else? I don't fucking know. There's no benefits here. Okay. Well, you got the world's most powerful military. I go off. I don't care. My kids need to eat. I really don't give a shit. All right. So you look at the UK. What were the benefits of citizenship in the UK just 20 years ago? Universal health care, a great benefit system, a great social welfare system. Yeah, there was a help your neighbor attitude. Right? Wonderful. Okay, well then at that time, I would have rather been a citizen of the UK than the US. You see, but now the distinction's not so clear anymore. Neoliberalism is destroying everything. It's just now it's coming out of the US and it's being exported everywhere. This American exceptionalism, all this crap, and people are dying left and right. Over what?
Let me say something real quickly. So July 13th, I'll be speaking as Real Progressives has a workshop at the Green Party National Convention in Newark, New Jersey. And, I'll just give you a preview right now of what I'm going to say so you all understand how important this is. I'm going to tell the Green Party directly. I'm going to look at them, friends. Hopefully they'll actually be in the room. Hopefully I won't be talking to an empty room. But if I am, it'll be live streamed, I'm sure. But I'm going to tell them point blank how much I love the Green New Deal, how much I love FDR's second Bill of Rights, how much I loved the platform of Bernie Sanders when he put it out there under Stephanie Kelton. And I'm going to itemize how much I love these things and how wonderful they are and how they would save lives. And then I'm going to explain to them that they can't get there with their economic plan. Their economic package and their economic mindset is so skewed and so off that they will not be able to provide anyone with a Green New Deal. And the challenge to them will be, do you really want a Green New Deal? Or do you really want to take back the means of production, overflow the system, destroy this, destroy that, or do you want to save lives? Do you want Medicare for all or health care as a right? Do you want green energy? Do you really want environmental fixes? What do you really want? Or do you just want to raise your fist in the air and be a revolutionary and go to good campfires and wear Birkenstock and do this and do that? Or do you actually want to end the drug war? Or do you actually want to provide a job center on every community, like Jill said, and provide a federal job guarantee so we can eradicate involuntary unemployment and peg the economy to the labor standard and be able to provide power to the people, once again, as Jill said? Is that what you want to do? Or do you just like the struggle? What is it that you want? Because it is a shit or get off the pot moment. It isn't either or, because they put it in such a way that they have to make a decision. Do they want the Green New Deal, or do they want to destroy the system? The two are mutually exclusive. Anyway, Ellis, I'll let you have the last word on this.
They can't fund anything. They're going to spend the rest of their lives spinning the wheels, taxing the rich to pay for things. And you're going to get it in little baby steps, as Hillary Clinton said, baby steps. You can't do that because it's not necessary. Yeah, people will die in the process. People will suffer in the process. People will lose. And market crises will continue. You'll get another financial crisis at some point. Read Minsky. But what hope do I have of convincing people to read Minsky when they won't even read a simple Facebook post or an article in ABC News at MMT? You know, so, but again, remember, we don't need everybody to be on board right away. We just need enough people to reach a critical mass, like I keep saying, and then it's all downhill from there, meaning it's easy peasy from there. You know, the momentum will pick up, and these people who are just sort of like a fist in the air type thing, they'll some of those people will just join up with the momentum and let the momentum carry them, and the hardliners will get steamrolled because of job guarantee. I'll say it again. Job guarantee is coming. Universal health care is coming. Sustainable energy is coming. Okay? It's all coming. And there's nothing anyone can do to stop it. Okay? So, and for those of you who are new to this, I just heard MMT. And the light bulb went on for me about something, and I'm so excited. You'll go out and you'll try and talk to people on social media. You'll try and debate people, even though you don't know completely what you're talking about. You know just very little about it. And you'll get a lot of negative reactions. And you'll think, God, it's such an uphill battle. We've got such a long way to go. No. I've said it in this program before. I'll say it one more time. MMT has been around for a very long time. Tribalism has been for a very long time as well. And you've sort of arrived late in the game. Okay? We've made tremendous progress. We're nearly done. All right? We're at that point now in our history where people are attacking us right and left because they're scared shitless of us. They're scared shitless of MMT because MMT describes, it opens the book wide. It takes the veil off. Okay? Right now, reality is covered by a veil. It rips that veil off and it shows you what's actually going on, the mechanics of what's actually going on with federal spending. And people don't like that. There are people that just don't like that. And they're going to fight tooth and nail, called neoliberals. All right? So, you just arrived late in the game. That's all. Take heart. What I say last time, a couple times ago, I said on the show, a couple shows ago, 10 years ago, they ignored us completely. And now I'm not using a Gandhi quote, but it's true. They ignored us. And then 5 years, so they laughed at us. Now they're attacking us because we've reached a point like in the intelligence community, there's a saying, the bomber pilot knows when he's approaching the target because he starts getting flak, starts catching a lot of flak. Okay, and then he's catching flak right now. That's because we're nearly over the target. Okay, so what do you think we're going to do when we get over that target? Have a latte? Fuck no! We're going to drop some fucking bombs. Okay, and neoliberalism is going to die. Okay, and it knows the time is short. Okay? It's fighting right now, tooth and nail, to try and maintain. And it can't maintain itself, and it can't. It has a terminal illness, and it's going to die. The people are going to kill it. If you want to kill it faster, you have to develop an understanding of MMT. And you've got to make MMT, you have to place it at the core of all other issues. In other words, how should one say, climate change, right? Animal rights activism, all these left-wing causes are all attached to a core, the beating heart. The beating heart is how you're going to pay for it. MMT explains how it's paid for. Okay? It's a message of hope. So if you have that at the center, you're no longer a member of this old, ineffective left that just sits there and lives in orphanages. Okay? You now have a new left that's highly effective. It's a highly trained army that will gore neoliberalism to death. And it's international. It doesn't recognize national borders. And the reason for that is because neoliberalism doesn't recognize national borders. Okay? You think it does? Explain why. Explain why George Osborne here, former Chancellor of the Exchequer, is a fellow at the McCain Institute and is paid $150,000 a year retainer. Think about that. Neoliberalism does not care about national borders, does not recognize them. And so a new left cannot recognize national borders. There's no such thing as a US citizen. There's no such thing as a UK citizen. There's no such thing as a Greek citizen. There is no such thing as an Australian citizen. They are just human. They are the new left, and they will meet neoliberalism on the battlefield, and they will kill it. They will destroy it. They will slaughter it, and there will be no quarter shown to the ideology. It will die and be consigned to the trash heap of history. And a monument will be erected, Steve. And you know how it's going to be paid for? Never mind. So anyway, this monument's going to be erected. And it's going to say neoliberalism, a thing you shouldn't do. Okay? There's going to be film footage. There's going to be archives showing all the devastation of austerity and neoliberal ideology and how it's destroyed and eviscerated economies. And it's going to be held up as a reminder forever. Don't do this. Okay? And the people must be reminded occasionally, don't do this. And yes, the business leader will come, and the financial interests will come, and they will seek a way to bring back unemployment. They will seek a way to suppress wages one more time, or they'll come up with something even more creative. You have to be on guard. And how you're on guard is simple. With MMT, once the public understands this, and this is after, the momentum is already gathered, and you've got the majority of the public is seeing that nobody's going broke. The government's not going broke, but yet we have prosperity in perpetuity. We have full employment, and there's no trade-off between unemployment and inflation. People are witnessing it right and left, that prosperity, even though the government's deficit is enormous, it's not going broke. Everything is wonderful. There's no problem. When they see that, they're going to say, any business leader that comes to this table and says to us that we have to come up with wage suppression or busting unions or doing something to harm the workers, nobody's going to listen to that shit. Because they know that it's a sad story of death and destruction. That's all it's going to be. And nobody wants to go back there again. All right? So we are going to win. And the reason why we're going to win is because there are far too many. Worldwide, I want you to stop thinking in terms of just the United States, please. There are other countries, your brothers and sisters in Canada, the UK, Australia, Greece, Italy, okay? These people are suffering right along with you, all right? All for the same fucking reason. It's the same enemy. It's just one enemy. All right? You need to understand, it must be understood, that once you have MMT at your core, you can unite, and we will unite. There are far more people worldwide than there are rich people and business interests. And we are more powerful than they are. Okay? We are many, they are few. I don't know how many times people have said that over the years, but it still holds true. Now imagine a quarter of the globe understanding and aligning itself with MMT and what it implies. Okay? That's devastating for the neoliberal, that's devastating for the business leader in any nation. Because you have 20, 30, 40% of the population saying, we know that taxes are not paying for this. You're lying. We know the national debt's just a bunch of savings accounts at the Bank of England or at the Federal Reserve or at the RBA. We know you're lying about being broke, and we're not taking it anymore. Guess what happens? Change. Real change, you can believe in it, as Obama said. You know, so anyway, getting off the subject here. But yeah, I tend to do that on this program, but amazing when I'm live, live at a place giving a presentation or talking, I'm not like erratic, I'm very focused for some reason. But at any rate, the thing is this, we're not going to lose. We're not going to lose. We're already, just consider we've already won. We're not going to lose, okay? The thing is that you gotta learn this stuff. And you got to learn why it's important to learn this stuff. And then you have to apply that knowledge, teaching other people, spreading the word, as it were, okay? If you're capable of teaching, if you have deep enough knowledge, teach, okay? But spread the word, nonetheless. If you don't know a lot about the subject, but you're very excited, I can understand, because hope is really addictive, It's best not to debate. It's best to just throw links to resources or to other people like Bill Mitchell or Stephanie Kelton or Stephen Hale or Philo Kaboom, Warren Mosler, Scott Fullwiler, myself, other people, okay? And let us deal with it. We'll answer those questions that you can't, but get the word out there. And take, just be glad that you have hope. Because it can't be taken from you now. Light bulbs are never going to go off. The light's going to be on perpetually in your head. It's never going to go off. And we're going to win. All you need to do is just turn on the lights for other people. It's easy to do. So there it is. It's my little spiel there that makes no sense because it's so disconnected. Just to say a simple thing. I do not care what anyone says. We are going to win. And it's going to be global. It's going to be worldwide. We're going to win. Whether I die or it doesn't matter because we are going to win. There it is. So,
folks, with that message of hope, as an activist, as a person that cares, as a person who sat through nearly 2 hours worth of economics between Ellis and I going back and forth, I want you to understand something. You must go to your Green Party candidates. You must go to the leaders of the Green Party. You must go to if you're going to go Democrat, which I don't, whatever, go to your leaders of your Democratic Party. Go to your friends everywhere and ask them, how will you pay for this? And keep hammering them on it. If they can't answer, you've got your answer. That's the bottom line. They don't know. And that's a shame. And it's up to us to help make them know.
Yep. Right. And it's also important to note that if their answer is, well, we will find cuts to this or that to pay for this, that's not an answer. That's not an answer. Because cuts are not necessary. They just aren't, not at the federal level. I'm sorry.
That's right. All right, Ellis. Well, look, thank you all very much. From Ellis and myself, I want to say, have a wonderful 4th of July. I know it's not everyone's independence. I know there's other people that are still suffering. And with our message of MMT, this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to free the world. So with that, have a great weekend, everybody. Have a great week. We'll see you soon.